Excuse me.
Oh, impressive wingspan.
And now, the year that went to infinity and beyond. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 events of 1995.
Hey, we can take care of all that before we go.
Yeah, right.
Oh, with America Online.
For this list, we'll be looking at events from each half-decade, from pop culture, natural disasters, medical breakthroughs, sports, and political happenings based on their significance at the time and their lasting impact today.
We had unique pressures put upon us, and we both tried our hardest to cover them up. But obviously, it wasn't to be.
This is part of a series of videos spanning the decades. Number 10, the worldwide launch of the Sony PlayStation.
You are not ready.
Stemming from a shelved project co-developed with Nintendo, Sony's PlayStation, a radical departure from cartridge-style gaming, hit the Japanese market in December of 1994. But it was not unveiled to the world at large until E3 in May of 1995. Retailing at $299 US and doubling as a CD player, the PS1 turned heads and even won a fan in Microsoft CEO Bill Gates.
Let me in, Brad!
Who's that?
Let me in! Brad!
I don't know.
Brad?
In all, 7,918 titles were eventually sold for the PlayStation, totaling 962 million games sold, with driving sim Gran Turismo becoming the best-selling game overall. The platform was eventually retired in 2006, with over 100 million units sold.
Colonel, can you hear me? Loud and clear. What's the situation, Snake?
Number 9. The Winnipeg Jets are sold to Phoenix.
And this is supposed to be a celebration of the Jets' 23 years in Manitoba, but let's be perfectly honest, this will not be an entirely happy day.
Following months of speculation, rallies, and even a funeral, the Winnipeg Jets were sold to American investors for $68 million in October of 1995.
Tom Kenny Johnson is trying to hook them and puts it right up into the roof of the net.
Although always a strong contender in their WHA days, by the 1990s, the Jets' NHL history of lackluster seasons and weak ticket sales had caught up to them.
And the Jets have opened up a 4-1 lead, and Quint gets his second in just a few seconds.
On May 3rd of 95, the notion of keeping the team in Winnipeg was dead, leading fans to hold a funeral for the Jets 3 days later.
Well, I'll tell you, they made a big mistake, I'll tell you that.
Despite government involvement, the sale went through, and in December, Phoenix, not Minnesota, was revealed to be the team's new home.
What little bit I do know about hockey is it's a winter sport, and we don't have much of a winter down here.
Number 8. The Tokyo subway sarin attacks. Already reeling from the Kobe earthquake on January 17th, Japan was hit by what was considered the worst attack since World War II on March 20th, 1995.
Parcels of liquid sarin, wrapped together with a solvent that turns it into gas, are distributed to a dozen Aum commandos.
Following a sarin gas attack of the Tokyo subway system by the cult Aum Shinrikyo, at least a dozen people were left dead, over 50 were harmed, and 1,000 more were temporarily affected. During morning rush hour, 5 members released the chemical onto busy subway trains. The cult's leader, Shoko Asahara, claimed no responsibility, but he also previously claimed to be both Jesus and Buddha.
The attack, we now know, was part of a much larger plot aimed no less at overthrowing the Japanese state and starting a world war.
The attack and subsequent raid on Aum's laboratory led to almost 200 convictions throughout the decades, with more than a dozen given death sentences.
After a protracted 8-year trial, Asahara was sentenced to death, as were 4 of the 5 attackers.
Number 7. The Bosnian Civil War ends.
America's role will not be about fighting a war. It will be about helping the people of Bosnia to secure their own peace agreement.
Peace seemed possible in Bosnia on January 1st, 1995, when former U.S. President Jimmy Carter brokered a ceasefire between Bosnian Serbs and Muslims. However, by May, tensions had renewed.
NATO planes destroyed the Bosnian Serb communications network.
They couldn't even make telephone calls.
When Serb forces refused to move weaponry out of Sarajevo, NATO responded with air attacks on Serb ammo depots as part of Operation Deliberate Force, while Serbs retaliated by attacking Muslims and violating UN-designated safe zones.
Mi nismo mogli da prihvatimo u cijelosti taj ultimatum u tom trenutku jer bi smo izgubili Sarajevo i oko 150.000 naših Srba bi bilo izloženo pokolju, izloženo divljem nastupu muslimanskih.
The summer saw Serbs seize Srebrenica and Žepa, but it also saw additional NATO airstrikes, which pushed Bosnia, Serbia, and Croatia to the negotiation table in November. The product of those talks, the Dayton Accords, was signed on December 14th.
On behalf of all of us who would come to see this peace take hold, you have seen what war has wrought. You know what peace can bring.
Number 6, the premiere of Toy Story.
Local law enforcement. It's about time you got here. I'm Buzz Lightyear, Space Ranger, Universe Protection Unit. My ship has crash-landed here by mistake.
Yes, it is a mistake.
Sure, now we all have our broken Buzz Lightyear dolls, action figures, and we wore out our VHS copies long ago. But Toy Story was an absolute game-changer in 1995, as it was the first full-length feature film to be made entirely of CGI.
To infinity and beyond!
Pixar's debut feature film, Toy Story began in some form in 1991, but the story took some time to work out, mostly because early drafts saw Woody cast as an unlikable raging jerk.
Will Andy pick me?
Toy Story's $362 million box office take and Best Screenplay Oscar nomination, meanwhile, legitimized computer animation and proved Pixar could be a serious player in Hollywood.
Way to go, Idaho!
Gee, I better shave.
Number 5, the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin.
The 73-year-old Rabin was rushed to a hospital where he died of his wounds a short time later.
Shortly after attending a peace rally in Tel Aviv in November of 1995, Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was shot in the back and would later die of a punctured lung. His assassin was Yigal Amir, a 25-year-old law student and an Israeli Jew who killed Rabin in protest of the Oslo Accords, who believed the PM's signing of the agreements endangered Jewish lives.
We all love the same children, weep the same tears, hate the same enmity, and pray for reconciliation.
Rabin, the first native-born Israeli PM, was committed to peace in his region and even won the 1994 Nobel Peace Prize, an award he shared with Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat and politician Shimon Peres. Rabin's funeral was attended by 80 world leaders, including Bill Clinton, who eulogized him.
The world has lost one of its greatest men, a warrior for his nation's freedom, and now a martyr for his nation's peace.
Number 4, the dot-com era begins.
How about sending your mom some nice flowers? All you do is click on Marketplace, we place an order.
Call now for America Online, a new way to use your computer.
Although soon-to-be giants Amazon and Yahoo came along the year prior, 1995 saw the beginnings of internet mainstays eBay, Craigslist, Match.com, Game FAQs, and Snopes.com.
The fact is, there's a lot of programming code underneath that, right? Because there are hotspots all over this text.
Right, and the graphics that are here, and the titles that are larger, all of this is because there are HTML codes that are in the source file telling the browser what to do to display this file.
The year also saw the birth of AltaVista.com, Classmates.com, CareerBuilder.com, RaptureReady.com, and YachtWorld.com. You know, Yacht World.
Because the internet is full of neat stuff.
1995 also saw investors begin to throw good money at anything with .com in the name, often on pure speculation or novelty.
Want to get your business on the web? Call Florida Internet about turnkey packages that include web page design, software, hardware, and personalized tech support.
Startups operated on a get large or get lost mantra of growth before profits. Not surprisingly, many also crashed and burned hard when the dot-com bubble burst several years later.
You know, this information superhighway stuff sounds like a lot of super hype to me.
Well, of course it is. But the internet does represent a new form of communication, and this is the best part. You don't have to be a computer geek to take a spin on it.
Hey, watch it, John. Some of my best friends are geeks.
Number 3. The O.J. Simpson murder case.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
When Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were found murdered in June of 1994, all signs, and the state of California, pointed to Simpson's ex-husband, O.J. Simpson.
There's a lot of people that love you. Don't throw it all away. Don't throw it all away.
I can't take this.
Oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
However, despite a slow-speed chase during which he threatened suicide, O.J. and lawyers Robert Shapiro, Johnny Cochran, F. Lee Bailey, Alan Dershowitz, Robert Kardashian, Gerald Ullman, Robert Blazier, Carl E. Douglas, Barry Scheck, and Peter Neufeld maintained his innocence.
The killing was personal. The way it was done. The way it was done, this is personal.
Owing to accusations of planted evidence by the LAPD, sloppy prosecution, and a jury that didn't quite get all that sciencey stuff, O.J. was found not guilty following 133 days of televised courtroom testimony.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder.
Number 2. Windows 95 is launched. Supported by a Rolling Stones-powered ad campaign and Jay Leno, and also armed with a Brian Eno-composed startup theme and videos from Weezer and Edie Brickell, Windows 95 arrived as the multimedia platform that year. Introducing the Start button, Internet Explorer, and MSN, Windows 95 also favored the sleek and modern CD-ROM over the more traditional floppy disk.
We don't have any CDs or flappies.
I believe that's called floppies.
That's what I said.
No, you said flappies.
I did not.
Okay, you were there. You heard her say flappies, so I'm not crazy.
Despite the stench of Microsoft Bob lingering in the air, the OS, codenamed Chicago, sold 7 million copies at least $100 a pop in just 5 weeks.
There's never been any sale like it ever.
And it's paying off.
Perhaps not surprisingly, 1995 was also the year Bill Gates was announced to be the world's richest man. Good for Bill.
I mean, the atmosphere resonates with anticipation of mythical achievement.
Before we unveil our top pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
We can kick your city back! Yeah!
They leave us alone and they stay and they don't put the weapons on us. They get to live for another day.
CBC Decision Desk calling for a no victory numerically tonight. It's going to be a squeaker, maybe as much as 1 percentage point separating the two sides by the end of the evening, but no more than that.
Number 1. The Oklahoma City bombing.
Side of the federal building has been blown off.
Holy cow.
At 9:02 a.m. local time on April 19, 1995, a truck rigged with a diesel fertilizer-derived bomb exploded outside the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in Oklahoma City.
Numerous injuries all over town. Adults, children, there's glass everywhere. Virtually every building in downtown Oklahoma City appears to have been damaged.
The blast destroyed the Murrah Building and killed 168 people, 19 of whom were children. The bomber, Timothy McVeigh, a disgruntled former U.S. soldier with anti-government beliefs, selected the building as it held offices for the DEA, Secret Service, and, most importantly, the ATF, the bureau who conducted the Waco siege 2 years to the day prior.
When the FBI arrived to question McVeigh, he would only give them his name, height, and weight. They were struck by his composure.
McVeigh was arrested soon after, initially for an unrelated traffic offense, but was found to have TNT prices on his person.
McVeigh was sentenced to death and was transferred to a federal prison in Florence, Colorado. Within this Supermax facility, McVeigh lived in a unit reserved for the worst offenders.
His co-conspirator, Terry Nichols, was also arrested later on.
The most beautiful memorial left by anyone is not in the rubble of this building, but in the hearts and the lives that knew them and loved them.
Do you agree with our list? What do you think is the most important event from 1995? For more totally crunk top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
For example, a nerd is someone whose life is focused on computers and technology. But a geek is someone whose life is focused on computers and technology and likes it that way.